Data dump from the Intergalactic Journal of Mechanics and Biology. The human cortical stack is a jagged piece of wetware engineering, a fortress of gray matter reinforced with enough redundant systems and fail-safes to make a corporate black site look vulnerable. It's all feed-forward loops and feedback triggers. Punch a hole in the hardware and the ghost doesn't always leak out. Instead, you might just fry a localized subnet while the rest of the processor stays online, humming in the dark. In the aftermath, the wetware actually migrates, neurons remapping their own circuitry to patch the holes in the mainframe. For centuries, the baseline assumption was that human CNS regeneration was a joke, but compared to the delicate, single-thread architectures of other species, it's a terrifying biological miracle. Humans are the only tech monkeys capable of walking away from a shattered cortex. But that resilience has a price. The brain is an energy vampire, sucking down 20% of the body's total power output just to keep the lights on. If the nutritional intake or hydration levels drop below the red line, the system starts to glitch. And then there's the maintenance cycle. Memory indexing only happens during sleep. To the rest of the galaxy, sleep is an alien bug, a total system crash. Other species do the meditation thing, low power mode, but they don't do the full shutdown, the absolute blackout of the conscious ghost. For this apex predator to stay sharp, the brain needs 8 hours of hard reset. To any other species, that's not sleep. It's a flat line. The ship was a tomb of pressurized air and silence, underscored by the subaudible vibration of the fusion drives, a hum you felt in your teeth more than your ears. It was the dirty secret of human deep space ops. For a third of the clock, they're just meat puppets laid out in rows, their minds jacked into a lightless void. Krill had spent a year breathing their recycled air, but the sight of them still made his skin crawl. The first time it happened, he'd been ready to call a code blue. It was his first shift, 12 hours spent shadowing Captain Ver through the ship's industrial, grease-stained guts. The humans were lethal, smiling with too many teeth, eyes always scanning for a threat, but they played friendly. They hit him with the high-stakes social bonding, handshakes, high-fives, the physical intrusion of their space. He'd watched them rip into a crewman who'd lost an eye, a jagged bandage covering the ruin, but the guy didn't reach for a blade, he just laughed, calling himself a Cyclops. Pure human cynicism. Then the fade started. Krill watched the crew lose their edge as the internal clock ticked down. Their movements got heavy, eyes drooping like they were fighting a high-G burn. One by one, their jaws unhinged in those infectious yawns, a biological broadcast of system failure. Finally, the captain caught Krill's arm, his grip like a hydraulic vice. That's the tour, Krill. Go find a rack. Questions wait for the morning. I'm hitting the void. Following the Alpha, the crew peeled off, vanishing into the bulkheads. The ship went cold. Krill navigated the halls, feeling like a ghost in a machine. He looked at the tech, barbaric, over-engineered, built to survive a nuclear winter. He had 1,000 questions, but the ship had become a graveyard. The lighting had shifted to a low-res crimson, and the only sound was the thrum of the engines, like the breathing of some massive, predatory animal. He hit the crew quarters. The door cycled open with a pneumatic hiss, revealing a darkness that felt like a punch to the gut. When his senses adjusted, he froze. 10 humans, laid out like casualties. No tactical positioning, just bodies slumped in various states of total physical surrender. Some were on their backs, others face down in the deck padding. Were they dead? The thought was a cold needle in his brain. What kind of op could take out 10 human Tier 1 assets without a single discharge or a scream? He hit the next room, same carnage. Bodies in the dark, mouths open, trailing beads of saliva like leaking coolant. The silence was heavy, pressurized. He moved for the captain's deck, his internal hydrogen reserves venting with a sharp whistle as he pushed his speed. The captain's door slid back into a void. There he was, curled up on his side, knees to chest. A defensive fetal tuck. Head down, guarding the carotid, knees up to protect the vitals. Had something hunted him? Had he died in a frantic, losing struggle in the dark? A thin line of fluid glittered on his lip. His thermal signature was dropping, bleeding heat into the deck. Krill took a tentative step into the kill zone. He was the last one standing, and he needed intel. His boot caught a discarded piece of gear, a dull thud, and the corpse went from 0 to 60 in a heartbeat. The captain surged upward with a jagged snarl of pure lizard brain instinct. Krill shrieked, hitting the deck as the captain lunged, eyes wild and dilated. A light strip flickered on, harsh and clinical. Krill? What the frag, man? What's the play? I thought the ship was compromised, Krill managed, his voice a frantic vibration. The crew, they're cold. They're unmoving. I thought you were all flatlined. The captain narrowed his single eye, the fog of sleep clearing to reveal the cold intelligence beneath. He sat back on the bench, a dry, cynical laugh rasping in his throat. Krill, we're just sleeping. Sleeping? Krill repeated the word like it was a foreign chemical. The captain nodded. Hard reset. System maintenance. It cleans out the neural pathways, patches the meat, keeps the infection at bay. He tapped the bandage over his eye. I need 8 hours of blackout, or I start to glitch. So back off, yeah? Krill stammered an apology. The human just waved it off, already sinking back into the supine position of a corpse. It's fine. Forgot you guys don't do the nightly exit. With the captain's permission, Krill hooked up the diagnostics. He wanted to see what was happening under the hood. What the sensors showed was a horror show. The captain went still, and then the vitals started to tank. Heart rate dropped from 80 to 70, then 60. When it hit 58, Krill couldn't handle the data. He shook the human hard, jolting him back to the world. Human. Status check. The captain snapped awake, cursing with a violence that made Krill jump. I'm gonna fragging break your neck if you pull me out of the tank like that again. Krill backed off, watching the readouts as the human went back under. The pulse slowed again, breathing becoming a shallow, rhythmic ghost. Body temp dropped. Brain waves shifted into long, heavy swells, the signature of a mind drowning in deep water. Panic flared again when the motor cortex locked, a total neural bypass. When the human finally clawed his way back, he was a bleary-eyed wreck, struggling to sync with reality. You were dying, Krill hissed. The captain just rubbed his face, his expression unreadable. No. Just deep in the stack. Krill nodded, but he knew what he saw. In his world, those symptoms meant a body was prepping for disposal. The consciousness blinks out, energy bleeds away, the core internal mechanisms grind to a halt. The brain becomes a riot of erratic signals, dead zones flickering to life in a desperate, last-ditch effort to keep the hardware from seizing. The motor strip gets cut to save power. Those who survive the brink speak of dreams, fragmented, violent data shards stitched together into a hellish narrative. Krill's final report was a warning to the galaxy. To survive, humans have to court death. Every night, they enthusiastically slide into the void, pushing their bodies to the very edge of total shutdown. Their vitals drop to levels that would kill any other sentient species on the spot. They go rigid, paralyzed by visions of a lightless reality. And they don't fear it, they crave it. They dance on the edge of the grave, drawing a raw, primitive energy from the blackout. Their species evolved to repair itself in the dark, to come back from the void more lethal than before. They find peace at the finish line, hunted by their own reapers. They don't just sleep, they recharge their malice in the mouth of death. The conclusion is inescapable. Humans are a death cult species from a high-gravity hellworld, and they bring that darkness with them. The young spend most of their time in the blackout, while the old spend less, as if they know they're getting closer to the real thing. The hypnic jerk, that sudden, violent spasm of wakefulness, is the brain panicking, realizing it's drifted too far into the dead zone and screaming for the heart to kickstart. The humans think it's a glitch. What they don't get is that their instincts are dead right. They are dying. Every single night.